Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters. In my brain then, boys, I'm going to be completely honest with you, because I'm an honest type of guy. In my brain, it said, welcome back to the World Championship Series, but I changed my brain to words, and it came out Intel Extreme Masters.
Wow, that's a really cool story,
It's a skill
Sean.
to have, man.
That was a very exciting story.
Yeah, well, the Intel
Thank you
Extreme
for
Masters
sharing.
seems to be a cool story with Apollo time, mostly.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
guys- that's
you're
why you
answering
guys
your
like hanging out
phone.
with
There's
me.
like a whole episode where you're just like chatting to
I
Caleres.
still can't believe when
Apparently
you
I called him.
I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
Well, you knew that I was hosting, yet you still decided to call me anyway.
Cheeky guy, cheeky guy.
How do you have my number?
Well, we've known each other for quite a while. I mean, it's been all right.
All right, let's take a look at the bracket, as I got to figure this guy out. We are very close to finishing Group C. As you can see on screen right now, 4GG is through in first place, as mentioned a little bit earlier on, but we have a single best of 3 remaining, and it is America versus Germany here, as Lambo takes on State. Before we talk about the matchup, I do want to bring your attention, of course, to the plays.tv website, because we have not just highlights and games, as some of you have already started to notice, first-person shots are also coming up on that. So go to plays.tv and check out some of your favorite players' first-person action. It's always good to have, especially with the caliber of players that we have at this tournament. Now let's change our focus to the matchup at hand. State versus Lambo. What's your first kind of thoughts when I say that to you? State versus Lambo. What comes to mind?
Looking at the group, I was looking at the players and I was thinking, there's a clear favorite in this matchup, a clear favorite in that matchup. But I was thinking, I really hope we see Lambo versus State, because I think this is the most mysterious matchup, but also the one I think we have the best chance of getting a very even matchup. And I'm pretty sure I searched it on the Ligulac, and it also agreed, said it was something like 49 to 51%.
Wow.
So I think we're going to see a good match here. Speaking to Lambo before, he was saying not really sure what to expect from State. I don't think State's seen too much of Lambo's EVP either. So I think when you're in that situation, you've got a good chance of like players playing somewhat standard in the first game, trying to feel each other out. And that's when you get these cool macro games, lots of chances for both players to kind of show their skill.
Oh, let's keep on Lambo for a second, because I remember we actually both commentated Lambo versus Kung Fu Panda in the season that he won in group stages. And Lambo seemed really on top of his Zerg versus Protoss back then. He was understanding the way that Protoss players played. He knew how to play against that. But he did bring up an important point in his winner's interview, as things have changed since then, because that was a couple of months back. And he says it's been a matchup that he's struggling with. But at the same time, his form in itself looked pretty damn good today.
Yeah, it did. And, when you do have that kind of reflection moment and you do cast your mind back to those, as much as it was a few months ago, in the German scene, it's predominantly been dominated by Protoss for a long, long time. And Lambo has been able to stand up against them regardless of what he thinks about the matchup.
And to be honest, like, how much has the matchup change pick, Zerg versus Protoss, over the last couple of months? Because back then, when I was casting it, Protoss with players have obviously refined the strategy a little bit more, but it was very similar, the third base being taken quite early, the +2 Blinkstalker play, that was still being used a couple of months ago. So what is the big differences that have really happened in the last couple of months?
I think we've seen a lot more variance from Protoss players. There was a bit of a time in the meta where they said, well, Swarm hosts are gone, I'm Protoss, I can get away with like the same sort of style almost every game. But then they realized, you know what, if you ever become too predictable, it becomes a bit easy for a Zerg to play. Zerg players, if they can anticipate what's happening, they can be really greedy and they can always find a way to adapt. So I think what we're seeing now is Protoss players saying, let's mix in some aggressive timings, let's throw out some crazy cheese, because just the threat of that is going to help really keep the Zerg in check.
As you were mentioning what you were just saying there, I felt like you were part of a toothpaste advert with your awesome smile, and the one word that stood out was predictable. And that's something which State just simply isn't, right?
Not right now, no.
How does he play? No one really knows. He's been in Korea for so long. He does his own thing. He plays on their server. He's come to this tournament. I mean, what can Lambo do against that? When you know what you're going up against, it's easy, or easier, should I say. But is he going to play that style? Is he going to play an older style? Is he going to play something completely different? How do you approach that?
As Lambo right now, you're thinking, this guy is a wild card. He could throw anything at me. I'm not sure what State's going to do. And I think as a Zerg player, in that situation, you want to feel out your opponent. You want to scout really well. You want to play that sort of general Zerg reactive style. Unless you have a really clever build for a specific map, you're really just looking to scout it out and go from there. Now, something we should think about, we're talking about how the matchups changed. Obviously, since Swarm hosts completely changed their role in the matchup, we've seen Zerg players feeling a lot more pressured to end the game early. They don't want to let Protoss get out of control. I think because of that, Zerg players are trying to be very greedy, and then in that mid-game, they're trying to kill the Protoss. They're trying to shut them down, deny their expansions. But if he can't quite get in the situation to do that, like, it could get a bit hard for him. On the other hand, if State realizes, you know what, he might be a bit greedy, I might just go in with those hard all-ins, hit really early, and just try to kind of cut the feet out from underneath.
I think that's a good assessment of the situation, because Lambo, in the majority of the PvZs that I've seen him in, have been essentially, he's been centrifying on the mid-game, really just trying to power out with those Roaches and Hydras, trying to find the good angles there to try and kill off his opponents, his third bases, etc. And then if he hasn't been able to do that, there's been a little bit of a fall off later on, definitely.
Yeah.
I think one thing to look at too, aside from the strategies and the styles of the players, is considering that all of the best players pretty much in this tournament were thrown into Group A and Group B, unfortunately for them. This leaves a great opportunity for both these players to have a top 8 result under their belt. Everyone knew coming into this tournament that Group C was the weaker of all the groups. But right now, we're almost finishing it. 4GG's gone through in first place as many thought, and it's a golden opportunity for either one of these players now. I mean, if you think about it, you've already said it's 50-50. Lambo could either have a top 8 to his belt, State could have a top 8 to his belt, and that's a big point in someone's career.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where, as the player is sitting up there, you're thinking, I'm on a big stage, there's lights on me, there's cameras on me, and you don't want to get too nervous. You want to kind of stay focused and just be like, all right, I'm still going to do the builds that matter. And then you've got these two guys, and they're like, oh, I actually don't know what to expect. So they can't really brace for what they're going into either. I think a lot of their stage presence, their confidence is going to be very important because of that.
What did you think about State's mentality and the way that he was preparing for the series? In both games that we've seen him play earlier today, he opened up game number 1 with a very risky build. The very first map, what was the very weird choice? It was the Dark Templar, right? The very early Dark Templar choice that he was like, you know what, it is risky, but if I put him off balance, this is really good for me. If I take the loss, I take the loss, I can come back. And then even in his series against 4GG, he decided to open up with Proxy Oracle. What do you think, as a mindset of a professional player, for him to be doing that twice in a row, and something for him to do here as well?
I think it could be a really good sign in that he's saying, you know what, let's just see how this goes. Let's not be clutching to, oh, I don't want to take any risks because I don't want to give away any losses. I think at a certain point in a player's career, they realize this game has a lot of variance in it. And if you're too uptight in your play, you're not taking any chances, your opponent's going to be taking liberties. They're going to be getting away with little bits of greed. So I think State's kind of got to that point. He's come here. He's clearly very relaxed. He's not saying, I'm the favorite. I'm going to win this tournament.
Yep.
He's saying, I'm just going to go out here and I'm really going to try and mess with my players' minds and upset them. All
right, before we go to the commentary team, predictions. Come on, who's going to the round of 8? Who's going home? Come on, hard-hitting question, Pig, tell me.
I think, the way State was playing before was very good. I think he's probably going to take it out 2-1.
I imagine that Lambo probably expects some early aggression, so I think that Lambo can maybe shut it down and go on, maybe 2-1 to Lambo.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to head to the commentary team for the last game of Group C. It's going to be a big one.
Thank you very much, Sean. And for the big one, we have the big boy himself sitting next to me. It's Litot, who is going to be the first non-Korean to qualify for the Intel Extreme Masters quarterfinals. That is the big question that's on our mind right now, Todd.
Yeah, actually in an epic plot twist, there was only one Korean in this group, so I guess a non-Korean will make it. And it's either going to be Lambo or State, Protoss versus Zerg there. Who do you think?
I'm leaning towards Lambo.
Where's your Protoss bias, man?
Oh, have you seen my ladder games against Zerg? No, actually, the first map is Iron Fortress, and I feel that Lambo's pretty solid overall. State, I'm just not sure how good he is in this matchup. Either way, I'm excited for it. I think we're in for a really fun best of 3, because it's going to be close regardless. You are feeling State, Todd?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, let's see who's more right, you and me. Over here on the right top side of Iron Fortress for the first map of this final best of 3 of Group C, we're looking at the main base of the man himself, representing Invasion Esports. It is Lambo, also known as the Lambo King. Had a couple of fun casts at Home Story Cup. He recently played at Home Story Cup. That's the first time I got to know him. A very likable character, I'd say, Todd.
Yeah. I made fun of him a lot at the couch. I don't know if you saw.
I saw a little bit of it.
Because it was the first time that I met him. So I introduced some player on the couch, and then I turned to Lambo and I was like, "And this is who are you?" He was very offended. I think.
Oh, over here on the left bottom side of Iron Fortress, looking at the main base of our North American Protoss that's currently living in Korea. It is State. State, one of the players that has made the journey to the Far East, but for more reasons than just StarCraft. I mentioned that earlier today, Todd, and do you agree that State just kind of, it seems like he just wants to live in Korea, right? Not necessarily for StarCraft, but he just wants to enjoy the country as it is a beautiful place to live in.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do think that he still likes StarCraft quite a bit. But yeah, I think you've got a point, as in, he didn't go to Korea just to
grind.
Basically only grind 24/7. I'm pretty sure, he goes out, he takes time to relax here and there, but his practice really showing. I was very, very impressed with that series earlier that he had against Uthermal. A little bit less against 4GG, but again, going into 2 series in the same matchup in a row can be very difficult, because especially if you try to mix it up a bit more. So we'll see here.
It's interesting because State mentioned that he's been practicing mostly Protoss versus Terran because he felt it was his weakest matchup. And then Lambo also said that he has been practicing mostly Zerg versus Terran because he has a couple of big series coming up against other Terran players like Hero Marine for EPS, as of course he wants to be back-to-back EPS titles under his name, under his belt.
You need to say the full tournament name when you mention EPS.
EPS Meisterschaft. No. Deutschland's bester gamer. No, not anymore. It's just Meisterschaft, I think.
No, it's not Meisterschaft, it's Meisterschaft.
Shaft.
You need to insist on the shaft.
Now your German is better than mine, Todd. It was just a matter of time. Soon you will be correcting my Dutch too. It's going to be a double hatchery before spawning pool opening over here on the right top side for Lambo. While State on the other end has opened up. Very old school, by the way, Todd. He built his buildings on top of the ramp. Look at that. Is he expecting some good old 14-14? Does he think he's playing against Bly? He's not.
Well, I mean, maybe not being familiar with Lambo encouraged him into, going for this safer route there for builds. And also remember, he plays on Korean ladder. I feel like State, he probably doesn't play that many custom games, so his style, generally speaking, as good as he's going to be to, I guess, kind of be pretty safe against most things, I think you make definitely throwing in a bunch of gambles, but he's going to scout a lot, try to play safe.
I think you make a very good point there, Todd. A player that plays mostly on ladder. On ladder, of course, you face so many wild builds, and on a certain point, you might be sick of losing against the same silly opening a couple times in a row. So then you will go for a universal opening that's pretty solid all around. Won't necessarily put you ahead against anything, but you also won't die. There is no hard counter to the opening of State, but pretty much the best case scenario is what we're watching right now for Lambo, who went double hatch before pool. But this is where things get interesting already, Todd. 2 gateways went up in the front, but 1 went up in the main base as well. That's the cheeky one. The cheeky gateway number 4. So we're going to see a little bit of 4 gateway pressure. There is a probe on the left side. Can we take a look at this probe real quick? Because that Overlord came very close to spotting it, but didn't see it.
The sneaky probe, man. Crouch him, probe, hidden pylon. Caseless would be proud here once again.
Oh, this is so good. Because State still has that other probe in the middle of the map.
Oh, he's going to see it in a second. That's a massive tell.
Yeah.
He was already chasing a probe on the map, so now he sees another one. And Lambo's probably thinking, what's going on? Starts 2 drones, though.
No, nothing but links. Lambo absolutely needs nothing but links right now, and probably needs to connect these bases with creep tumors. He's gonna get a spine crawler here. If I am State right now, Todd, I would probably open up with a few stalkers. And I know that's risky, because if they get surrounded, you're in a lot of trouble. But just Zealots, I don't think that just Zealots are going to cut it, especially not with a spine crawler on the way.
Yeah, Lambo needs to delay this attack here a little bit. He's fighting very early against these Zealots. He's gonna start losing a lot of links there, but as long as this spine finishes, it's gonna be okay. But the spine's gonna be targeted here a little bit. I think State should take out this spine as a priority.
I mean, there are a lot of Zealots here still, though, and soon State will be able to wipe in a couple more Zealots. These Zealots actually doing some serious work. The Mothership Core is not going to die either. The Spine does finish up, and a lot of these Zealots are low HP. If I was Lambo, I'd probably even get a couple drones just to save that Spine Crawler. That Spine will fall eventually, but there are so many links on the way, and link speed is almost ready. It's not done yet, but it's almost ready.
I really like that at the same time State's getting some more probes, by the way. He's on 34 against 32 drones here right now, so if he keeps on trading with Zealots and forces more and more units, he's gonna be okay. But Blair finally started there for Lambo.
Wow, really good hold so far though by Lambo. Yes, he ended up losing a queen and a drone, but most of these Zealots have gone down. That one Zealot actually regenerated shields. But now Zergling speed is ready. He is actually taking care of it. Can we take a look at the units lost resource tab real quick? Lambo lost 1900, oh my god, 55 links. But, of course, this opening by State does delay
Yeah.
State's third attack.
He's still making links. It's 38 probes to 31 drones, so even though Lambo's on 3 bases, he has no queen on the natural to inject. And even that third base there wasn't being injected here for some time, so he needs to start picking up that drone back up.
I still kind of like it though for Lambo, because as soon as he feels that he's safe, he's going to be able to squeeze out 10, 11 drones at a time. He should be able to create a worker
But
lead
he's
for himself again.
He's 10 walkers behind right now, which I
Yeah.
think is really massive. The 2 more gates going to go down the forge as well.
But it's going to be very hard to say to go up to 3 bases. I'm not sure if Lambo saw that link, but even if he did, he can just check the nexus soon, and he should be able to cancel it.
What,
That's a
3 bases,
lot of.
Kev?
That's
Just
a lot
get
of
sentries
zealots.
and zealots and go for it. YOLO.
the
Hydra Den's going down.
Yeah. That's why I kind of like it, because State doesn't have a robotics facility, so he's just going to 8 gate, you think?
Yeah, he's doing a parting there, build with a lot of sentries. He's still starting the +1 though, even though he's not going to finish on time here for the attack. Lambo going straight into Hydras. I think I like this because
Yeah, absolutely.
he's going to get quite a few of them out before the fight actually begins. And then it's really, really hard to win with just gateway units. Usually there is only one guy that makes this work.
Like he needs to buy a little bit of time. Lambo is supply blocked. It's going to get tricky though. It's going to be very, very close because State just wants to fight as soon as possible, and Lambo needs time. Right now he has 0 Hydrolisk, but if he can get up to 6, 7, 8, oh, there was no wall up there, right? Oh, he walked in a unit.
Oh yeah, there was a zealot.
Well done. So 4 Hydras. It's going to get very tough. It's doable, but it's going to be very, very tough
Sentries.
for Lambo.
Lambo's trying to buy some time. He won't really succeed too much there.
With
Just
8
slowing this down barely, but 9 Hydralisks on
Yeah.
the way. They're going to take some time to reach on that third base. State cannot wait though. He needs to go up there. He might wait for actually 1 round of warping.
I mean, Lambo needs a little bit of buffer as well. He doesn't need a whole lot of links, but you definitely do need a couple. His first few Hydras are out. He's going to reposition the Spore in the spine.
Army supply is massive in State's favor. 50 against 46 right now. And a lot of those Hydras, they're on the way. He might have to pull drones right now, but he's delaying it a lot.
I like these Zerglings on the low ground. They're forcing State to pay attention to these pylons. State cannot afford to lose these pylons, so he needs to keep them alive. Hydra numbers are going up, but those force fields start. Those are on the money. Those are the force fields that State was looking for. And now he reduces the Hydra count again. And I actually think with those force fields, State should be able to pick up game number 1 on Iron Fortress, even though Lambo is going to do his absolute best to hold. But the Hydra numbers thought if you're this broke and you've had such low army supply to work with, losing 4 or 5 Hydras like that is often the beginning of the end. And it was. You could agree with me there, Todd. You're like, that's right, Roddy. This was the beginning of the end, as GG is called. And State will pick up game number 1 on Iron Fortress. Got close though. If Lambo, like I think Lambo did pretty much everything that he could have to buy more time with those links and stuff. Where do you think it truly went wrong? Just a few too many links against the Zealots, Todd?
Yeah, he wasn't droning up at all, and I think he fought a little bit too early quite a few times. You can actually delay the fight against this. Even if you take some damage on your hatchery, as long as you save it, and even if you lose it, to be honest. As long as, you know, you completely defend this and then retake it, you're gonna be okay. But like, he was 10 walkers behind at some point, which is just massive, so not quite the hold he had hoped for.
Alrighty, we're gonna have to a very small break, and after that we'll be back with game number 2 between State and Lambo. Alrighty, welcome back to day 3 of the Intel Extreme Masters Cologne, where we are getting ready to figure out who's going to be the 6th player to advance to the quarterfinals. Right now, State is only 1 map win away from securing his spot at the top 8 of the Intel Extreme Masters. And Todd, if you would have told me 3 weeks ago, before that North American qualifier happened, or maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, whenever it was, hey, I think State 5 weeks from now on is going to be top 8 in the Intel Extreme Masters event, I would have laughed at you and I would have said you were ridiculous, because like I hadn't heard anything from State for a while. Now he has surprisingly made his way through the qualifiers and he's looking good so far, man.
Yeah, again, he's doing pretty well against some of the strong European players that we have there, beating Thermal earlier and now against the German player Lambo. Did fantastic in the first map, went for an early on aggression followed by a B push and kind of killed him easily.
North American StarCraft is on the rise once again. Europe, watch out.
Not just with you, Roddy, and your stream, killing people, repping America, but also with dates.
Second map is a very interesting one, a map that we still haven't seen a whole lot when it comes to super competitive StarCraft 2. It is going to be played on Dash and Terminal. Todd, I know you've vetoed this map, but I'm still going to ask you a lot of questions about it. But for now, let's introduce our German champion himself, representing Invasion Esports. It is Lambo. Cheeky smile, he's like, ha, this Protoss didn't veto Dash Terminal. That's why he's laughing right now, Todd. And over here, and over here on the right side of Dash Terminal, we're looking at the main base of the man who needs one more map to do what he's never done before, and that is reach top 8 in IM. It is State.
Stretching a little bit.
He's like, whoa, how did I end up on Dash Terminal?
I guess I vetoed all the other bad maps and this one was left. Actually, I don't actually veto that Dash and Terminal, but I'm supposed to every time I get it on ladder, but then I forget. So I end up playing a lot of games on it.
You know, I'm stubborn, so I don't really veto any maps, as I do like the variety. Like, I understand vetoing maps is going to help your ladder rankings and stuff, and there are definitely some maps that are difficult for you, but what I enjoy the most is when I play for 6, 7, 8 hours in a row, that I don't play Coda 27 times. Like, I like Coda, it's a solid map, but if you have Coda upvoted and you veto maps like Dash Terminal, Bridgehead, and let's say, well, Terraform is solid, maybe Cactus Valley or something, you play on Coda so extremely much. And
but I thought you were a true Warcraft 3 player. We played on the same map for 15 years, man. Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that's true, but back then nobody was watching over my shoulder, so if I have a bunch of people watching, I just like playing on all 7 maps, and I like the variety that it brings, and I think it makes StarCraft 2 a lot more fun, as long as you don't take yourself too serious, which sometimes I forget, Todd. Sometimes I suddenly think I'm good at this game, and I know I'm not. Wow, okay, on the bottom side, I was like, did he just accidentally wall himself in completely? But there's a small little gap on the south side of the gateway.
Yeah, the pylon on the ramp is interesting, because on this map, one of the big trends here from some of the Zergs has been to open, you know, quick gas, quick pull, and then go for Zergling speed, contain. Usually you don't really expect to kill the Protoss unless he's really bad or doing something very greedy. But in this case, Lambo does the polar opposite of this. Goes for double hatch before pull.
Which I think is good, because he's playing into the strengths of the map as well. Like, it's rather difficult for Protoss to go up to 3 bases over here. Eventually it's doable, because if you have a bunch of force fields, it can be tricky for the Zerg to attack into a Protoss, but this is not a map where Protoss in general would be very greedy, and Lambo's opening is still good against State's opening as long as he won't die against that 4 gateway pressure, which didn't really kill him on Iron Fortress, but put him pretty far behind.
Yeah.
And also something we didn't mention, but which I did notice, is that Lambo was supply blocked multiple times when the Protoss army was moving out. First at 70 and then at 80. It was just double supply blocked. And of course he didn't have a whole lot of money to make a crazy amount of Hydras, but having a few Hydras out a little bit quicker may have made the difference.
He saw this coming a little bit late, I guess. Like, I don't think he was completely surprised by it, but he definitely gave State the benefit of the doubt of whether or not he was going to take a 3rd base. So he realized kind of late this was going to hit, and just wasn't in a good position.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there, because I had a feeling at first that State wanted to expand, and then of course we saw the gateway explosion, and there were 4 more gateways going down, and then it was pretty obvious.
L'explosion.
Really? That sounds great. I'm going to work on that one. Come on, listen to my next cast in roughly 3 weeks from now on, and I'm going to throw it in there. L'explosion.
L'explosion. Lambo is this time around trying to scout here a little bit in the main. There's really not much to spot. Actually, Twilight started in range there, but I don't think he had time to click on it.
Twilight's always a little bit smaller than the Gateway, so I think maybe he picked up on it. Double gas this time at 5:30, as Vanka showed us as well, which is a little different than in the previous game where he was gasless up to the 6-minute mark, where he truly didn't expect, I think, the 4 Gateway pressure. Maybe expected a small 3 Gateway poke, Sentry, Blink, Stalker style, but not the good old 4 Gateway, which we see Lilbao use sometimes. And then, you know, Hawk was a big fan of the 4 Gateway pressure against 3 hatch before pool gasless. And a lot of other processes out there. I've always liked it as well. You have to do something to keep the drone check in counter.
What do you think about Zergs that take the gold base here on this map?
For some reason, I haven't played a whole lot against it. I'm not sure why. I thought most of the time they just pick the 2 bases that Lambo currently has.
Okay. Sacrificial Zealot here is not going to do too much. Not get that queen here, supposedly. Lambo is going to do well enough to make sure that doesn't happen. Spore's going up there. He's a little bit afraid of some kind of Oracle flying in, but actually, you know what? It's the good old Dark Shrine.
Interesting location as well for that Dark Shrine. I think if a Zergling would hawk that destructible debris on the north side, he would probably be able to see it. Not 100% sure, but maybe. Either way, what I do like from State is that he's making it hard for Lambo to figure out what he's playing against. Are all the spores finished up, by the way, Todd, or did he cancel one? The third base doesn't have a spore, so we only have 2 spores. And the overseers are going to be a little bit late. Oh, Bodish, of course, taking a lot of damage. Will fall, actually. That's pretty big, Todd.
Yeah, it is. State's a little bit reckless there. Didn't pay attention to his units enough.
14 drones.
And speed's about to finish, so these Stalkers not having recall here available. If they stay out on the map with, I guess, additional units being whopped in or not, they could be in trouble. But it looks like State's just gonna walk on home and
double Roach Wine, that's cool.
Let the DTs try and do the work.
We need an overseer though. Like, there is a chance that State will send 1 Dark Templar into the natural, or maybe both. You need to go to the third base, State. Oh, this is so unfortunate, because State doesn't know what we know. Oh man. He can, like, Lambo dodged the bullet there because that third base thought completely exposed, no detection, could have ended up losing a bunch of drones, maybe even the hatchery. Instead,
yeah,
you know, State went for glory for the natural, maybe the main base, but there was detection there.
You know what I told Kadars? He dodged far more than just the bullets. He dodged psionic blades, Roddy. In this case, slicing down his drones. Pneumatized carapace. Is that the classic mistake, or?
This is an okay map for some maybe Roach drops later on, Todd.
I think, I mean, you can get the Overseers to go across the map faster, but did they actually need that? I don't think so.
It's not a very expensive upgrade, though.
Yeah, I guess when you're a millionaire, buying a pack of gum is not that much. And it's gonna keep your breath fresh, and in this case, the Overseers are gonna be a little bit faster.
I like this build by Lambo. The double Roach one to right next to each other, both wiggling. He's gonna get Roach speed and tunneling claws, and he's going to laugh in the face of danger, which normally is. Oh no, okay. Yes, see? Ah, I was right after all.
There is no Robo, man.
No, I know, this is going to be extremely difficult. I'm not even sure. He's gonna laugh in the face of danger, what normally is sentries, but right now sentries are not all that dangerous. Because Roaches with tolerant claws, we saw that multiple times. For instance, Firecake against Hearthstone at WCS. You know, Roaches with tolerant claws is just a great answer to a lot of force fields. And no Immortals. Archons could be okay-ish, but...
Yeah, against a lot of Roaches, they become a lot worse, especially if the Zerg kites properly. And it actually cancels the Robo there. Not sure why. He should just be looking to wall this. I think if he knew what was happening, he would just wall this off.
I think he was afraid he was going to lose it regardless. So what do you do right now, Todd, if you State? Like, talk to me, because I have no idea what I would do.
You've seen my Warcraft 3 games, I think. You know what I would do. Like a lot of static defense. And wait for him to attack and lose everything. But in this case, State is making the mistake of moving out here. He got baited by 1 single Overseer. He's going to lose a lot there. Sentries, Archons, Zealots. And there's going to be a lot of units here getting in there from Lambo. 97 army supply to 24. State down to just a very few units. Photon charge is good, but is it that good?
I was about to say the exact same thing, Todd. Some Terran players like to believe it is, some Zerg players like to believe it is, but I'm pretty damn sure that this Nexus will fall, the next Nexus will fall. This robotics facility should never be able to produce a single unit. I believe Blink has finished up, so that is one thing, but I'm afraid this is just a little too much Zerg for North American Protoss to deal with. Got a little bit unfortunate. Could have done a lot of damage with the Dark Templars, but that was one of those moments where if he knew what we knew, guys, he would have been able to go all the way. But now instead, it's a massive Roach party. Good answer though by Lambo. Love the double Roach Warren.
Yeah, he's got a lot of minerals behind this, but it won't matter Does Lambo mean roach in German or something? Like, that's a lot of roaches, Roddy.
I don't think so. I think his name actually comes from the car Lamborghini, but I'm not 100% sure. So, Chris told me that the other day while I was chatting with him and we were watching this other game where one player calls himself Ferrari. It's a great nickname. Ferrari 430, Todd. if you would nickname yourself, Todd, to a car, what would it be? Would you be a Peugeot or Renault?
I don't think so. What about you?
Maybe a Spiker. That's a Dutch car. They make extraordinary supercars. They're pretty cool. I think they're bankrupt though. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Spiker sounds pretty cool.
Spiker?
Yeah, I could go to real life.
Pretty terrible.
All right, then I have to think about it a little lot. Maybe Maserati sounds always pretty cool. But,
I don't think any car name sounds like a very good nickname, Roddy.
I can deal with Lambo. I think Lambo sounds pretty alright. Lambo still...
It would sound alright if you hadn't named yourself after the name of a car.
Well, maybe it's not. Maybe I just made it up. Maybe my friend was wrong. And GG is finally called as Lambo was on 170 supply against the roughly 60 supply or so from State. Obviously, there was no holding that amount of roaches. There's really not too much we can say about this game that we haven't said yet, Todd. State went for glory. As I yesterday said, sometimes, Todd, when you play StarCraft, it's hell or glory. You don't want anything in between. He could have gone for a little bit of damage here and there, but he decided to send Dark Templars together. They can do a lot more, but unfortunately for State, he sent them towards the base that had a Spore Crawler waiting for it. And then the DTs didn't do anything. And this is one of the oldest stories in the PvZ book. Opening up with Dark Templars is okay, but if you do absolutely no damage, how do you deal with the Roach counterattack?
Yeah, it's pretty hard. It's, in particular in this case, because there was Turning Class. I think if he was only one Roach Royal, he could have made enough sentries and maybe made a few Immortals before Turning Class was going to kick in. It almost feels as if Lambo, he kind of got very lucky, I think, with what he was going for. Because I do think he started the second Roach Shrine before he saw that he was Dark Shrine.
Yes.
So he got pretty darn lucky here, I think.
It's an okay map for this kind of style, though, because the rush distance from base to base is not that
An
far.
okay map for this kind of style.
Yeah.
I see you measuring your words.
Wow.
It's pretty damn good.
Alrighty, we're getting ready for game number 3. I'm very curious to see which map it is going to be played on, as it could
Terraform.
Terraform, alright. I think Terraform is a very solid map, Todd. I think you like it as well. The type of play that you are, I have an idea that you like Terraform.
Like is a strong word, but yeah, no, it's all right.
What do you mean like it's a strong word, Todd? I have never seen you attack before the 35-minute mark. Like you like to split maps up, and this map is very doable to split up.
That third base is definitely attackable. Listen, if the day there's 2 bases indoors that you can take very easily and camp them, then I won't be happy until then. That day you can say that I like a map.
There was
Terminus 3.
Exactly.
Now that's a map I like.
Alrighty, as we are loaded into Terraform, are we going to have an American or are we going to have a German making it to the quarterfinals? And let's not forget, of course, on Sunday for the semifinals and the final start, we're going to the Kühlenmesse, to the actual Gamescom, and it would be amazing to see a player like Lambo play in front of a German audience, but perhaps we're getting ahead of ourselves. He's spawning in the right bottom side of Terraform, representing Invasion Esports. It is Lambo. Our German champion, the reigning champion.
What with the caps? Did you
LA.
Americanize these poor boys?
No, actually, yeah. I have a cap very similar to that. And I posted it once on Instagram and I thought it looked kind of cool. And then Mr. Bitter's friend from Georgia, he's like kind of like, the very typical Southern American. He replied, I didn't know I was following Justin Bieber. I deleted the picture immediately.
Wow.
Because he's like this really badass American dude, right? Either way, on the left top side of Terraform, he's a cop as well. On the left top side, we're looking at the main base of our American Protoss. It is State. Sometimes we look back at the things we posted when we were young on the internet, Todd, and we facepalm. That is how you will feel about your gym selfies roughly 2 years from now on.
Yeah, because I will be 10 times buffer than now.
Okay.
I'll be like, damn, I was skinny.
All right, it's going to be pool first this time, so no super greed from Lambo. Going very greedy in game number 1 and game number 2 with double hatch before pool. Game number 3 plays it a lot more safe, Todd.
Yeah.
Pool before hatch.
Can't blame him. I guess you never know what your opponent's going to go for. And if State had done something a little bit crazier, like a a Forge and an attempt at cannon rush against a double hatch before pulled in, I think Lambo would have been in quite a bit of trouble here. So he's gonna, I guess, just play it a little bit more standard. And to be honest, some Zergs like Snoot, you know, they really like to go for the pull first no matter what, and Snoot is definitely one of the best 4N players, so you can definitely look at that and be like, well, I guess pull first not so bad. You can get your queen out quickly, start injecting, get the creep tumor going, and start the creep train.
It's interesting. He's opening up with 4 Zerglings right now. I don't think that's something that's necessarily needed. So I kind of wonder, why are you making these 4 links right now, Lambo? What are you worried about?
That Nexus cancel is a long shot.
Yeah, exactly, with 4 links. I've seen like one of the players that we will see in action in Group D, and I'm very excited to see him play, is Nerdchi, because it's been a long time that I casted a game of Nerdchi. I mean, other than WCS recently then, I guess. But in general, I don't cast a lot of Nurture anymore. Well, in my early days of StarCraft 2, 2010, 2011, like I casted Nurture all the time. But he had a lot of games in the past in Wings of Liberty where he would open up with a ridiculous amount of slow links and just rally them across the map, and he would kill Protoss with slow links. And I would always be like, can't believe that just happened. This is kind of nice though. They should be able to get this probe. Yeah, I think the Lynx will get it. Well done. And it also means that the pylon that State wanted to get is delayed. Look at this. He was supposed to drop a pylon already on the low ground tot, and it's delayed. It's still delayed. He's already supply blocked. What? Whoa, that Zealot, man. He's like,
get to
go
work
back out there.
Get to work right now.
You coward. He smacked him in the face. Go back and drop that pylon, coward. You call yourself a Protoss? A very quick robotics facility in the main base. If you guys missed it, the Zealot was attacking the probe. That's why it was just looked really funny. After the probe was supposed to drop the pylon and drop back up, this guy, man. Look at these two. They've got an interesting relationship with each other. This Zealot, I can just imagine the Zealot shouting at this probe. It's great. And that's a very quick robo. What do you think he's going to do with it, Todd? Maybe some more prison play? Cheeky?
Yeah, with such a quick robo, I feel like you have to commit to doing a lot with it. So I feel like definitely some Immortals at some point, but maybe with the War Prism first. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense if he was to go for that. And look, he's already getting Sentry here as well.
Yeah, maybe a potential lockdown in the main base, drop a couple forces on the ramp, and if it doesn't work, then it's okay because he has the Immortal as a follow-up. But
that's not a lockdown, that's a lockout.
Good point. But War Prism is indeed going to be the first unit of choice. It feels nice when I'm right once upon a time, Todd.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, Roddy.
I know, it's a beautiful quote. You know the movie it's from?
No.
Oh, I forgot as well. It's a great movie.
Why do you always do this? Like, set yourself up for failure. Like, do you remember this? I'm like, no, they look. Me too.
It's with Anthony Hopkins, I believe. It's a great movie. I'm sure someone's tweeting it at me right now. It's really, really good. Either way, 2 more gateways going
Immortal
down.
drop then, not sentries. Maybe 1 Immortal and 2 sentries? That'd be sick. You can do a lot of damage, especially if you catch the Zerg off guard and like you manage to stealth, you know, get your War Prism across the map.
There's already Sport Crawlers in every base. Like, I can understand that Lambo's a little bit confused about what is going on at this point. This is one of these moments where, oh my god, look at the amount of probes stopped. He stopped building probes at 34. Is this like sort of Naniwa's old school, I'm gonna make a bunch of Zealots soon? Like, he is on double with Simulator in the main base, so what is this? He's not building any workers. How many gateways are we on now, total? Now 2 more.
He's adding 3 more. The explosion is happening.
Well, he doesn't really have the funds to support the explosion.
I think he has enough mineral probes to go for a lot of Zealots. Like, he's just not going to be Stalkers, I think. When you do this, you get Immortals. And,
wow.
Yeah, you just reinforce with a lot of Zealots, basically. Like, you make some sentries in the start, but then from there, it's mostly Zealots.
Oh, he forgets the Stalker. The Stalker is locked in. Oh, nice.
Duration, evacuation.
Yes.
It's a success.
So here we go. State is marching across the map, and this is the march that could potentially launch him into the quarterfinals of the Intel Extreme Masters. Or are we going to have a first German player? So far, it seems like Lambo has a pretty damn good idea what he's playing against. He's getting all the units in the right place.
He's got so much already.
Yeah. If I try
51 army supply to 34.
If I try builds like this, the one that State is doing right now, it always fails miserably. But State is, of course, a lot better than I am, Todd, so maybe he can make it work. But I feel that Lambo so far has been doing pretty much everything right.
On a scale from 1 to Roddy, how likely is this to fail?
Roddy. Good surround as well, bringing the Zerglings from the north side. I like it a lot. Already picking up the shields on one of these Immortals. A lot of fortunes going down, but I just feel the DPS in this Army of State is not high enough, Todd. Where are the extra units? There we go. Finally, a couple of extra units being wiped in.
He's going for Stalkers with this, so he's committing a lot to winning the fight right now. I think Lambo has to pull back there a little bit, try and regroup, maybe pull some drones as well, because he's on 49 drones against 36 probes. I think if he holds this and even has just as many as 30 drones, he's going to be okay.
I feel this is a moment. There are not a lot of force fields available right now, and that Immortal was very exposed. If you can pick off one of the two Immortals, I think you should always jump on that opportunity immediately. State, guys, still did not build any workers. He is super committed. He is super all in. If the Immortals fall, I would say that the dream is dead. The dream will fall for State as well.
He's going to get right in there. Double time warp is used pretty early. Lambo's going to try to pull back, but he's losing a lot of units here right now. That Spine's going to take a lot of damage and go down pretty quickly, but the other one finally burrowed, and drones are being sent back in. He waited for this double time warp to finally expire, and State is all out of force fields, but he's doing a lot of damage to this army, and those Immortals, they are still being left untouched.
Yeah, it's still pretty damn close. It's ridiculous, because it feels like Lambo's doing a lot of things right. Move command there for a little bit. Wants to get closer and closer to these Immortals. The sentries are going to be exposed soon, though, and sentries are made out of paper. The Warp Prism dies, Todd. The Warp Prism dies, and there is no pylon out of the map. There is no Probot on the map, and now State is forced to evacuate, losing the Prism. Oh my god, because he was actually starting to do pretty alright.
He's going to have to pull back behind his starts Immortal production, Probe production, gets 2 more simulators and a Forge. He's going to transition out of this. And Lambo, he threw down that Hydra Den immediately. He knows that having Immortals there, it's going to be really hard to deal with this army with just Lynx and Roaches, even though he's going to have a lot. So he wants to go for Hydra Discs.
I would go for a Colossus here. I know that it's like a lot of pros players don't agree with that, but I feel whenever the Zerg is not that rich and it's extremely unlikely you're going to face a Hive-Tech Zerg soon, just drop that Robo Bay immediately. One Colossus completely changes the dynamic of the battle.
I played a game against Starguy recently, actually, and this happened. Like, my Immortal all-in got defended, so I tried to go for 3 Colossus timing behind this. I feel like it's the only transition you can go for.
And how did it go?
It failed horribly, and he danced his units for 10 minutes telling me to get out of the game. And since I was infuriated, I stayed. What a D-bag, this guy.
Todd, your ladder sessions are so epic. Sometimes I wish I was you for a day just to get this.
You want to feel the rage?
Yeah. I mean, I did kind of expect this. State is dropping the Twilight console, but I know I said, like, I personally feel that the Robotics Bay would have been the better option, but I know most Protoss players don't agree with it, and it seems like State is one of them. He's going to go follow this up with Blink instead, but I just feel it's so difficult when you're not rich, when you're on 2 bases, making the difference with Blink Stalkers against Hydralisk and stuff. Like, it can get very tricky.
The desperation Dark Shrine there. He should just take the gold, you know? You only live once, is what they say.
He's gonna send the Warp Prism across the map. Do you know what's in the prism? Oh, careful, careful. The Warp Prism is flying over.
Yeah, he
oh my god. I had 4 units inside of it as well.
Come on, Funka, you're better than this.
Oh my god, that was painful. 4 Zealots as well. That's 600 minerals down the drain. That is the absolute last thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Great positioning.
I'm actually surprised that he went like all the way in that direction after this was spotted.
Yeah.
And Lambo with a great reaction. This army is not looking that bad though, but I mean, supposedly there as Lambo, you go for a Hive and get Vipers and you win the game, but he's not going for that here right now.
Still want to see a Colossus start.
Well, it's kind of hard to go DT and Colossus against Zerg when you have to make this many sentries. Against Terran, you can do it.
Yesterday you said tomorrow, Todd. When there is a will, there is a way.
Let's please stop using this.
Fire.
Oh, he cancels the Dark Shrine.
See,
And he gets the Robo Bay.
Yesterday you said
He
tomorrow.
heard Sheila beef from right here.
That is great.
Make your dreams come true.
Yes. You see, 3 minutes ago he wished he would have already started at Robotics Bay. Now instead he's going to get it now. I think it's smart though, because like the Dark Templars, there were Spore Crawlers everywhere, there were Overseers everywhere. This just makes sense to me. It's still going to get tricky because Hive is on the way. And Tate knows this though. He sends in another hallucinated Phoenix, spots the infestation pit, spots the Hive, but you gotta do something, man. You need an answer to these Hydralisk. Storm is just extremely hard to pull off when you're only on 4 simulators. I don't know what these queens are doing.
He's gonna need some hell of good force fields there to win this.
Yep. What is these queens doing, Todd? And when the queens are marching in...
They're buying time for the Vipers.
What are they doing?
Sacrificial queens.
State is going to find them right
He's gonna take the bait.
He's like...
It's a magnet, mate.
No, it's not. These queens are super dead. There's absolutely nothing that could save them. There is another Warp Prism on the north side of the map right now. Has a couple Zealots. Like, State needs to take his 5th and 6th gas immediately. I felt like he took it a little late, because he needs to mine from that ASAP.
He saw the hive tech on the way, so he wanted to hit the timing before. He either needs to go for it now or pull all the way back, because it's a pretty dangerous situation. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Oh
Here
my
we
God.
go.
No, what is State doing? There's no freaking way he can ever stand here right now. He's going to lose so much. He needs to recall. But even, oh my God, that was extremely painful. Lost so many expensive units there.
Yeah, behind this he's going to +2.
Holy hell.
Thermal Lance and Colossus. He's gonna start getting a lot of charge loss on the ground to help against this, but Lambo, he's already maxed out. He's got a few Vipers.
And now he lost all the force field stuff. He can't really buy time anymore. There's no Templar archives. He can't drop feedbacks. I have no idea how he's supposed to protect his Colossus right now. Oh God.
Yeah, Lambo, he wants to make it to the top 8. He's gonna get right in. Where are the Vipers?
They're on their way. They were still leeching energy.
They're so late.
A couple of Zealots in the gold base, I believe. Like, I do like this, because you need to buy time, and hopefully you can force Lambo to turn around.
The abducts are going to be massive.
Yeah, Lambo's not going to fall for that. And once again, no High Templars means no party for this Colossus, and no party for the Immortals either. They will probably just get abducted one by one. A Blinding Cloud goes down too. And it seems like the reigning German champion, Lambo, is in an excellent position right now. Even though he is losing the gold base. Another Colossus comes in, Todd, but the Colossus is super exposed. Gets saved a little too late. He didn't want to be saved, Todd. Don't save him.
It's funny, that charge's about to finish, but he's lost so many Zealots. He's down to 1. That guy.
This Hydra army doesn't look extremely big, though. The Mothership Core will
the Warp
die.
Prism in the main. Almost got sniped before it warped in some Zealots, but Lambo, he's gonna have enough back at home. I really feel like at this stage in the game against Roach Hydra, you shouldn't even do that.
Wow.
Like aggressive Prism, because it's gonna be defended easily, but State holds down somehow.
Yeah, actually, I mean, like, Lambo's still in a good position, of course. It's 70 army supply against 28, but Lambo lost his fort base, doesn't have another fort
We
base.
trust the gold, by the way.
Yeah.
Very important.
He's not very rich. One more bad fight, and maybe State makes the comeback of the century. I'm actually so shocked, because now he's going to have charge as well. Like, I feel like as a Zerg, even if you lose a base like that on that moment, just go absolutely all out. Just go ahead and kill everything, kill that third base. But just trading units, he left like a bunch of Hydras behind, which it was quite a few Hydras, but not enough to cross the Immortals and the Stalkers.
Keep in mind that State, he's got +2 and Blink there to work with.
Yeah.
So, with only having... actually, I was gonna say, he's got few Vipers, but he's got 5. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's maybe even a little too much.
I guess no High Templars.
He has 19 Roaches suddenly as well. I have no idea how he got that. 1 Viper dice, but that was a Magnet Tot, because surprise, there's 4 more. And if the Colossus gets abducted, it's going to get tricky. Can State make another magnificent hold?
It's going to be really hard. He gets right in there. He's thinking about moving down the ramp. Lambo's going to force that because he's attacking his wall there right now. And the Vipers, they're just waiting for State to step a little bit out of position. I really like what State's doing here with poking at the front, but right now his wall and the Natural's dying in, and he's... I mean, he cancelled that Dark Shrine earlier, so he can't even count on that, and they're overseers anyway.
Yeah. Well, a couple Zealots being warped in. Where is that abduct? Blinding Cloud going down. I do still feel that this army of Lambo...
Oh my god, he's standing in the Blinding Cloud, and he's losing everything. Lambo crushing through this army here right now.
Yeah, I guess it was just a little too much Roach Hydra. It looked like maybe State was able to make a miracle happen with his Zealots and stuff, but Zealots not having any armor upgrades makes it very difficult for them to be very good against Roaches and Hydralisk. The one Colossus that looks like he's doing a lot of damage is obviously super fake. There are a couple cannons working out, but there's no Mothership Core either, no Photon Overcharge to fall back on. And Lambo wants to close it out, Todd, and he looks like he's in a pretty damn good position to do so.
I just want to make like stupid comments like don't let your dreams be memes, because you put this stuff in my head, man, and now it can't get out. But anyway, Lambo's just gonna press forward. He's killing the remainder here of the army of States. Down to 3 Stalkers only. It's 14 army supply to 80, and Lambo will qualify here to the round of 8 in his homeland.
Yeah, that is a fantastic achievement for him. Definitely not an easy group. Defeating U-Thermal and now defeating the North American Protoss State, the German champion, the reigning champion of the Meisterschaft, Lambo, qualifies for the quarterfinals of the Intel Extreme Masters, where he will only be 1 series away from playing in front of a very big audience on Sunday. That is awesome, man. That's really, really cool. I would say that this is probably the biggest achievement of his career. Despite being the national German champion, making it to the quarterfinals of an IEM in your hometown, or home country. That's awesome.
That's pretty big, yeah. And pretty happy for him. I guess State, though, a little bit heartbreaking. You know, he had a good start, beating U-Thermal very convincingly, but then fell to 4GG and now to Lambo. But I'm sure he'll be back stronger. He does every time. And yeah, that's it.
Well, I can't wait to hear what the man himself, Lambo, has to say as he's on the desk with Sean.
Thank you very much, Rotterdam. I'm here with the second place finisher of Group C. You've made it through. It was like you were driving 88 miles an hour in there. Congratulations, Lambo. You've made it to the quarterfinals. You're playing in the quarterfinals on Saturday tomorrow. It must be a great feeling for you. This is like a really big moment in your career, biggest result. What's going through your mind right now?
I'm really, really happy. And that's also like the first WCS points I get, which are, of course, not bringing me to BlizzCon, but most tournaments are, the rankings are based on WCS seed. So finally I get some.
And, you know, a long way ahead of yourself, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's go into game talk a little bit, Pick, who was watching very closely.
All right. Well, that first game we saw, I mean, just generally, we saw a lot of aggression coming your way, didn't we? There was a lot of, I guess, you know, it looked like State was throwing the kitchen sink at you. Did you go into that series expecting him to go so crazy aggressive?
No, as I said before, I had really no clue what he was playing, but since he lives in Korea, I thought he was playing like aggressive stuff, like maybe one game and 2 games like standard, Oracle into third base or something.
Yep.
But yeah.
So would you say by game 3 you were like, okay, buddy, what's up? What are you trying to do? Is that kind of the mentality you're in?
Yeah, I was like going pool first because he was really cheesy in the first 2 games. So I felt pretty comfortable. I was like, yeah, as long as I get into a macro game, it should be fine. So yeah, and then I saw the 2 gases missing as well, so it was obvious it was an Immortal in.
And so going into, from the very start, of course, it's a hard situation where you do get surprised in that first game. Of course, it was Iron Fortress, it was cross map, so you didn't really scout anything.
Yeah.
You had no information, and then you'd gone for the 3-hatch into the gas. He went for the very fast Sun Gate. Do you feel like that's pretty much always a bit of a build disadvantage unless you see it coming?
No, I think it's fine. Like, I got really unlucky that it was cross positions because my first overlords don't scout it, but I was kind of surprised. I thought it was sell it into Oracle or sell it into DG. I thought it was 3 gates because he made 2 zealots instead of, usually we do 1 zealot and 1 sentry. So I thought he had gas banked up for like an Oracle or something, and that didn't arrive. So I made spores, I think. And then I got fucked.
Of course, in game 2, you came out, dash and terminal, 3-hatch again. You were, you get the Overlord scout in earlier that game. What was interesting is you played very safe there. You kind of got the fast spore crawlers, and then was it the moment you saw the DTs that you decided to go for the double Roach Warren strategy, or were you planning to do that from earlier?
No, I did it because I saw the DTs. Because I don't think it's holdable with such a late robo and so much gas invested. Because yeah, you can't get robo and a lot of cannons with the DT builds, as well as enough stalkers.
Perfect sense. Great decision making. All right, one last question. In that final game, you did go for the pool hatchery there. You said you spotted the gases. Were you just making sure that no cannon rush could happen and kind of taking relatively fast gases? Were you at all nervous in that game, worried about the options, or did you actually feel calm as you were playing that out?
In the third game, I felt better. In the second game, I was really, really nervous because I forgot my pool after the 3-hatch. I made an Overlord before the pool then even. That's like really, like, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And yeah.
All right.
And in the third game, I think it was easier because it was like what I practice, like 15 pool, 3-hatch gasless. That's what I'm comfortable with.
Very well played. I was very impressed, man.
Thanks.
So moving into the quarterfinals, to be honest, no matter who you get, it's going to be difficult. Everyone knows that. But I'm just going to ask it anyway. Is there a slight preference towards anybody that's in the top 8 right now that you'd like to play?
Whoever gets through Group D.
Whoever gets through Group D.
Yes.
Nice and simple. Congratulations, Lambo. He nitros himself through into the quarterfinals and will be playing tomorrow. So we'll follow his progress then. For now, we can just check in with the bracket real fast as we have fully completed Group C. As you can see, we are having 4GG in first place, and then Lambo goes through in second, which now means we have 1 group left to finish here on day 3 of this tournament. We're going to Group D, where this is going to be an interesting one. You don't go anywhere. You don't want to go anywhere as the European Zergs take on the Korean Protosses.
Get right, last.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters. In my brain then, boys, I'm going to be completely honest with you because I'm an honest type of guy. In my brain, it said, welcome back to the World Championship Series, but I changed my brain to words and it came out Intel Extreme Masters.
Wow, that's a really cool story,
It's a skill
Sean.
to have, man.
That was a very exciting story.
Yeah, well, the
Thank
Intel
you
Extreme
for
Masters
sharing.
seems to be a cool story with Apollo time mostly.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
guys- that's
you're
why you
answering
guys
your
like hanging out
phone.
with
There's
me.
like a whole episode where you're just like chatting to
I
Caleris.
still can't believe when
Apparently
you
I called him.
I can't believe you did that. Well, you knew that I was hosting, yet you still decided to call me anyway.
Cheeky guy, cheeky guy.
How do you have my number?
Well, we've known each other for quite a while. I mean, it's been all right.
All right, let's take a look at the bracket as I got to figure this guy out. We are very close to finishing Group C. As you can see on screen right now, 4GG is through in first place, as mentioned a little bit earlier on, but we have a single best of 3 remaining, and it is America versus Germany here as Lambo takes on State. Before we talk about the matchup, I do want to bring your attention, of course, to the plays.tv website, because we have not just highlights and games, as some of you have already started to notice, first-person shots are also coming up on there. So go to plays.tv and check out some of your favorite players' first-person action. It's always good to have, especially with the caliber of players that we have at this tournament. Now let's change our focus to the matchup at hand. State versus Lambo. What's your first kind of thoughts when I say that to you? State versus Lambo. What comes to mind?
Looking at the group, I was looking at the players and I was thinking, there's a clear favorite in this matchup, a clear favorite in that matchup. But I was thinking, I really hope we see Lambo versus State, because I think this is the most mysterious matchup, but also the one I think we have the best chance of getting a very even matchup. And I'm pretty sure I searched it on the Ligulac, and it also agreed, said it was something like 49 to 51%.
Wow.
So I think we're going to see a good match here. Speaking to Lambo before, he was saying not really sure what to expect from State. I don't think State's seen too much of Lambo's EVP either. So I think when you're in that situation, you've got a good chance of like players playing somewhat standard in the first game, trying to feel each other out. And that's when you get these cool macro games, lots of chances for both players to kind of show their skill.
Oh, let's keep on Lambo for a second, because I remember we actually both commentated Lambo versus Kung Fu Panda in the season that he won in group stages. And Lambo seemed really on top of his Zerg versus Protoss back then. He was understanding the way that Protoss players played. He knew how to play against that. But he did bring up an important point in his winner's interview. Is
No.
How does he play? No one really knows. He's been in Korea for so long. He does his own thing. He plays on their server. He's come to this tournament. I mean, what can Lambo do against that? When you know what you're going up against, it's easy, or easier, should I say. But is he going to play that style? Is he going to play an older style? Is he going to play something completely different? How do you approach that?
As Lambo right now, you're thinking this guy is a wild card. He could throw anything at me. I'm not sure what State's going to do. And I think as a Zerg player, in that situation, you want to feel out your opponent. You want to scout really well. You want to play that sort of general Zerg reactive style. Unless you have a really clever build for a specific map, you're really just looking to scout it out and go from there. Now, something we should think about, we're talking about how the matchup's changed. Obviously, since Swarm hosts completely changed their role in the matchup, we've seen Zerg players feeling a lot more pressured to end the game early. They don't want to let Protoss get out of control. I think because of that, Zerg players are trying to be very greedy, and then in that mid game, they're trying to kill the Protoss. They're trying to shut them down, deny their expansions. But if you can't quite get in the situation to do that, it could get a bit hard for him. On the other hand, if State realizes, you know what, he might be a bit greedy, I might just go in with those hard all-ins, hit really early, and just try to kind of cut the feet out from underneath.
I think that's a good assessment of the situation, because Lambo, in the majority of the PvZs that I've seen him in, have been he's been centrifying on the mid game, really just trying to power out with those roaches and hydras, trying to find the good angles there to try and kill off his opponents, his third bases, etc. And then if he hasn't been able to do that, there's been a little bit of a fall off later on, definitely.
Yeah.
I think one thing to look at too, aside from the strategies and the styles of the players, is considering that all of the best players pretty much in this tournament were thrown into Group A and Group B, unfortunately for them, this leaves a great opportunity for both these players to have a top 8 result under their belt. Everyone knew coming into this tournament that Group C was the weaker of all the groups. But right now, we're almost finishing it. 4GG's gone through in first place, as many thought, and it's a golden opportunity for either one of these players now. I mean, if you think about it, you've already said it's 50-50. Lambo could either have a top 8 to his belt, State could have a top 8 to his belt, and that's a big point in someone's career.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where, as the player sitting up there, you're thinking, I'm on a big stage, there's lights on me, there's cameras on me, and you don't want to get too nervous. You want to kind of stay focused and just be like, all right, I'm still going to do the builds that matter. And then you've got these two guys, and they're like, oh, I actually don't know what to expect. So they can't really like brace for what they're going into either. I think a lot of their stage presence, their confidence is going to be very important because of that.
What did you think about State's mentality and the way that he was preparing for the series? In both games that we've seen him play earlier today, he opened up game number 1 with a very risky build. The very first map, what was the very weird choice? It was the Dark Templar, right? The very early Dark Templar choice that he was like, you know what, it is risky, but if I put him off balance, this is really good for me. If I take the loss, I take the loss, I can come back. Things have changed since then, because that was a couple of months back, and he says it's been a matchup that he's struggling with, but at the same time, his form in itself looked pretty damn good today.
Yeah, it did. And, you know, when you do have that kind of reflection moment and you do cast your mind back to those, as much as it was a few months ago, in the German scene, it's predominantly been dominated by Protoss for a long, long time. And Lambo has been able to stand up against them regardless of what he thinks about the matchup.
And to be honest, like, how much has the matchup change pick, Zerg versus Protoss, over the last couple of months? Because back then, when I was casting it, Protoss with players have obviously refined the strategy a little bit more, but it was very similar, you know, the third base being taken quite early, the +2 Blinkstalker play, that was still being used a couple of months ago. So what is the big differences that have really happened in the last couple of months?
I think we've seen a lot more variance from Protoss players. You know, there was a bit of a time in the meta where they said, well, Swarm hosts are gone, I'm Protoss, I can get away with like the same sort of style almost every game. But then they realized, you know what, if you ever become too predictable, it becomes a bit easy for a Zerg to play. Zerg players, if they can anticipate what's happening, they can be really greedy and they can always find a way to adapt. So I think what we're seeing now is Protoss players saying, let's mix in some aggressive timings, let's throw out some crazy cheese, because just the threat of that is going to help really keep the Zerg in check.
As you were mentioning what you were just saying there, I felt like you were part of a toothpaste advert with your awesome smile, and the one word that stood out was predictable, and that's something which State just simply isn't, right?
Not right.